Good morning. Oh my goodness. I just got a call from my kid's school. Her belly is hurting. So, um, I wanted to talk a little bit today about medical intuition and plant medicine, herbal remedies. I'll wait and make sure that we have good sound. Hopefully, we do. If not, I'm sure I'll be hearing about it here soon. That you can or can't hear me, drop me a line if you can't. I only have about 15, 20 minutes today. I just looked at the clock, 15 exactly. Um, as many of you know, I'm a psychic channel. I work with the energy fields in the body as well as the higher self. A part of that was a natural inclination towards medical mediumship, which I've been doing for about 23 years now and counting. What wasn't a part of that I didn't expect was that when I would help someone diagnose, find, I'm not allowed to use the word diagnose on YouTube. When I would help someone find any sort of clues or indicators towards what's going on in their body, um, they would ask the next question, well, what do I do with that? Right at that time, it was like, oh, I don't know. Right. So I went and I took a 3-year herbalism course. But herbalism is you never stop learning. The plants teach you something all the time. And I found that it was just information. Just information. We could all go read a book, right? And I found that it would be easier if I learned how to listen to my environment and talk to the plants around me. I found that in medical intuition, there were certain things that could be done, not just energy patterns being read. If you're in person, I can literally touch your hand or your leg or a certain part of your wrist here in the elbow. And this is a part of what any plant medicine practitioner who wants to study medical intuition should be able to do. You should be able to gauge energy patterns intuitively. And if you touch someone in certain what we call pulse points, and they're not just pulse points on the body, there are many pulse points energetically for you to be able to listen to what the body is telling you that it's doing. And you can do that for yourself or others. So that was something that I was initiated into by an indigenous elder of the Lakota tribe in late 2015. And it seemed to come naturally, just the ability to talk to the plants. But at that time, I was fairly terrified. I'm like, how many disclaimers and am I going to have, right? So what I like to do occasionally is to remind people that just the basics, it doesn't take a genius to learn medical intuition, and it doesn't take any sort of smarts to learn herbalism. It just you have to have a good memory and you have to trust yourself and your ability to tap in to what the plants have to tell you. So there's something called the doctrine of signatures that we can talk about at some point as well, that leads you to a basic understanding of how to talk to the plants in your environment. Right. So that's a lot of fun as well. I'd love to have a moment someday to really teach you that and talk to you about that. But today, what we're doing is talking about physical ailments, talking about how to trace them to plant medicines in your environment, or if you can't, like how you can get an ethical, sustainable source for a plant medicine. I'm totally willing to give away plenty of advice on that as well, about where I get some of my herbs during the winter. I literally like to go to shops and feel people out. And yeah, and if they make tinctures, my goodness, even more so. I want to meet someone and feel them out, right? Um, yeah, so I'm here to answer your questions for about 15 minutes. And we'll start wherever you want to start. Let's see. So put that in chat for me. Osteoarthritis in both knees. Okay. Luckily, I know you, so I might be able to get a I think we've had a reading or 2 or 3, haven't we? Are you who I think I am? Say yes or no, so I know I've got the right person. If not, it's fine as well. Once arthritis, particularly, luckily, it's not rheumatoid, because that would be a different thing that I would recommend for plant medicine in that. But generally speaking, when you have an inflammatory process in the body, you want to get an herb that wants to lower that. And you also want to get an herb that helps with any sort of muscle spasms, the vagus nerve in particular, if you have a lot of anxiety. And that's what okay, so you're the Cindy I know. Okay, good. Brown hair. Okay. With the sun, right? That's Cindy. Okay. So with you, what I'm sensing is that your vagus nerve clenches, and it's typically in this area that can cause what we call vasovagal reactions and responses of all sorts of varieties. It mimics a panic attack, but you can literally pass out from it. So if you're having some dizziness or weirdness when it comes to anxiety in your life, it might be something you want to confirm with me in the chat, but that's what I'm sensing is going on. And I know that these two things seem like they're very far apart from each other, but with you, they are not. If you get that under control, if you get either the osteoarthritis or the sort of spasming in the vagus nerve under control, that's going to help you a lot. So, what I'm going to suggest is to look up and do your research on evening primrose and not evening primrose oil. We're going to actually consider taking this in a different way. All right. So, I would suggest either an elixir or a tea to be taken for 5 days on and then 5 days off, and then see if you have any reactions. All right. So, with evening primrose, there's a lot that we don't know about her. She's an incredible plant ally. When you find her, um, she's kind of in the moderate use variety. So, you don't want to, you can't use her every day, but she's not like ultimately going to hurt you. She's not a dangerous herb, but you do want to kind of be aware that you use her for the condition when you feel certain things coming on with anxiety. Because what's happening is for you, when the vagus nerve clenches in that way, you are also getting an inflammatory response, and she's also incredible for inflammatory response. So I will also want to go towards, and I would suggest do that. And then the next day, try either an infusion or a tincture made of mallow root for the rest. Strangely enough, with you, because of the way your arthritis is, you've had some damage in the knee. So when it comes to the osteoarthritis for you, we want to work on lubricating some of those areas, and we want to work on strengthening the immune system as well. It's going to be different for everybody that I work with, but for you, I'm going to suggest doing that next. Mallow root is more of a general tonic that you can use for a longer period of time. I'm going to say 7 days on, 7 days off for that, and then see how you feel. All right. And that's what I get for you with that. Because with the pain of it, if you want to add a tea of white willow bark, that's also going to tone things down with the pain and the inflammation that's causing the pain. So that's a tea I'd suggest, and you can combine that with any of those two. There's no interactions with that, right? I do have my disclaimer in YouTube. I'm not going to waste your time talking about disclaimers, but you always have to say them. But it's right in my description. You know, the whole I'm not a doctor thing. These are not cures. This is all medical intuition and plant medicine knowledge and herbalism knowledge. Okay. And as Anya was saying, right now and extended to the month of February, as far as I know, it may last longer, but I have no idea. When you order a medical mediumship reading, you can get a free plant medicine evaluation and recommendation and instruction for how to create the type of medicine that you need, where to get it, what it is, what it does, etc. Would love to cure asthma. Well, for a child or for an adult, I have a lot of questions on asthma because it is an inflammatory response that's typically based upon your immune system. And if, say, you realize that, if this is for a child, um, that would be different than if you were an adult. It's harder as an adult to work that through, to actually cure it, because it's not about just trying to get you to breathe better or to stop the wheezing or to oxygenate you more. It's about the immune system response that's happening. And we want to know why your body is doing that. So typically with people who have some sort of dormant immune system condition, or perhaps a dormant virus that caused an immune system condition. If there are any environmental toxins that you are aware or that you aren't aware of that could be triggering an immune response, there could be so many reasons why you're experiencing what you think is asthma. And asthma is one of the most commonly misdiagnosed disorders of the body. I remember a friend of mine thinking that she had asthma and she was always in the doctor's office. And then later she turned out that it turned out, and this is what one of the things that I do, I came in and I'm like, that's not right. As medical medium should know the difference between asthma and many other conditions that it can mimic. So with her, she learned that she was having a unique type of condition that was a symptom of lupus that had to do with scarring of the lung tissues. And when she would have a cold, her mucous membranes would go, into her lungs deeply. They would become inflamed, and she'd get so much mucus, and all the tissues of the lungs and surrounding the heart eventually went upwards as well, from the lungs to the heart. It would harden, and it would have the same symptoms as asthma. It was pretty terrible. That's called scleroderma. So there are many plant medicines that treat scleroderma over time, and I just had to learn that by trial and error with working in medical mediumship, that there are plants that can treat it, but it takes a lot of use. And because some of the things that treat scleroderma cannot be used heavily, but only 5 days on, 5 days off, and sometimes 5 days on, wait for a month, depending upon how bad the scleroderma is, because we don't want to trigger something that's hard to stop. Right. So scleroderma is kind of one of those funny little things like lupus that you have to be particularly cautious with. So one of the questions I would have for you before just jumping into curing asthma is it really asthma? Number one. And number two, how do you know who told you? How do you know that? Could it be mimicking something? Do you also have any autoimmune disorders known, or do you suspect? I have a lot of questions on that one. Um, Otherwise, if it really is asthma, I would just be doing long-term regular use of mullein. Mullein is a plant medicine that you can use every single day of your life, right? Is one of those like broad spectrum plant medicines. But I would be breathing it in, like boiling it for 30 minutes over the stove, putting the towel over my face and breathing it in, as well as taking it at least 2 or 3 times a day with as a tea, or if you're using a tincture, I'd say 1 to 7 drops a day. Take your time, build up if you're using it as a tincture. Um, and I'd say with tinctures, you want to kind of do it for about 7 days and wait and see if you are actually feeling some symptom relief during that time before you add another drop. So when I mean a drop, I don't mean like a whole, like when you pull up with the droplet bottles, like the whole 5 mils. I mean one drop, click in the water, plop, right? That's it. All right. Let's see, because I could have a lot to say about asthma. Any herbs for menopause? I really love red clover tea. Red clover is another one. She won't hurt you. You can please always do your own research. Don't hurt yourself with herbs, but she's not one you need to worry about. She's a long-term use. She's a broad spectrum plant ally that you can use. But please don't mistake her with other clovers, because they are, well, harder to use properly. They have counterindications with other herbs, right? But red clover, I love it in a tincture. I love it in an elixir. External is just blah. But I would say it helps all the premenopausal and perimenopausal symptoms very, very, very well. But there are many that you can also combine it with. But let's start there. I find that when it comes to combinations of herbs, how do you know which one of those combinations is really working? So let's try red clover. And you could do that broad spectrum for a very long time every day and see if that's helping you. Try for 4 or 5 weeks and see how it's going. All right. I can take one more and then I'll have to go. We can come back and do this more often if you guys like it. If you enjoy it, we can do it. What herbs can help support period flow? What do you mean by support? Is it too much, too little? Generally speaking, though, I would also say red clover and evening primrose, and those are two that work well together in teas in particular, just regular use on that one. But if you're going to combine it with evening primrose, you want to do that one for only 5 to 7 days. All right. Recommendations for books on that. Plant medicine, you're not going to find too many great books because people don't like to teach, like we don't like to teach our lineage. Herbalism, yes. I like The Yoga of Herbs, an Ayurvedic guide by David Frawley. I like Awakening Artemis by Vanessa Shakur. And then there's another one. Oh man, my favorite one is not here. So we'll have to come back later on that one. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Kavakava? I'm in love with it. I think it's amazing, but I feel like there's many ways that you could prepare it that would be too strong or not good enough, not strong enough. So kava could be, well, an entire class. Yeah. More plant medicine? Okay. Yeah, we're thinking about bringing that more in March. So I'm looking forward to it if that's what you guys want. That's where my heart calls me with the direction of the way that the world's going. So I love you guys. I got to get going for sessions. Remember, if you get a medical mediumship course, not a course, a medical mediumship reading of any kind, any variety of reading, you get that free plant medicine consultation. However, come and dedicate your whole session to it if you have a lot of issues. Don't come and be like, okay, I also want to channel my higher self, and I also want an aura reading, and I also want pet reading. Like, try not to combine because it divides my energy. When you have medical issues, it's really good to also just take a look at what allopathic medications you're taking. That's something I will need to know. So come to me with that list, because I need to make sure that it's not something, like I want to make sure I give you something that's not going to interact with other medications that you're currently on, particularly with statins, that's the cholesterol medications, blood pressure medications, heart medications, anything like that. Anytime you're on prednisone or cortisol type of like treatments, like the cortisone shots, I need to know anytime you're already on, like say if you're on thyroid medications, if you're on hormones because you've had a hysterectomy. Those are all things I need to know, right? So please come with that list if you're going to have a session with me on that. And I'll see you next week. I love you. Have a great day. Bye.